The final race of the weekend is for Senior X30, and it's the local man, Luke Hughes, who's put it on pole position alongside Joe Turney. Sean Butcher of Australia alongside Morgan Porter from Brad Pennell, Lewis Malin, Levi King, Henry Laws, the O-Plate Thomas Turner, and Louis Westover in the top 10. A few names to keep an eye on down the field. There's a couple out of position, but most importantly, at the very back is Oliver Hodgson, a howler in the pre-final. So let's see how much ground he can make up as we charge for the first corner. And it's a brilliant start from Luke Hughes on home soil. He knows this place like the back of his hand. So even Joe Turney is going to find him tough to beat today in this sort of form as they come up towards the spoon and into that long sweeping right-hander. Butcher's right in there for third in front of Porter as they jostle for position. Good move around the outside from Henry Laws. That's put him up into P5. Great start from him up from the fourth row. So Henry Laws right into that top 5 instantly.
Joe Turney, the serial winner and serial killer of other people's Super 1 dreams, because this man just wins. He turns up at Super 1 and he just wins, Jake. It's as simple as that. If he turns up in your championship...
Oh, a bit of a jostle. That's a big problem. Now, that is Jake Douglas, who's gone. 22 in there as well as Anna Morris. The 77 went off. That's Rashid Ghanem. And we've also lost the 13 in there. That's William Pettit. So all sorts of problems there for several drivers in the field.
Oh, all sorts of issues. I was just saying about Joe Turney, Jake. If he turns up in your championship, and I'm talking including Formula 1, by the way, he'll end up being, in a competitive car, he will end up being the man they all have to beat. People are talking about Lando Norris, Jake, as a new big thing in Formula 1, and we wish Lando well. But he did not achieve what Joe Turney has already achieved in the sport of karting. That's how good Joe is. So if Joe gets a shot in the upper formula, believe me, put him in the right car, and at the beginning of the season, he'll be the man you have to beat.
Yep, absolutely. Joe Turney just has victory written all over him at the moment. He is an absolute fighting force. Mind you, the guys just on his tail at the moment, Sean Butcher and Morgan Porter, they've really stepped up their game in 2018 as Alex Wang, unfortunately, has been given a warning flag, the Singaporean, who's racing under the Mick Barrett Racing warning, of course. But Porter now through into third on Butcher. Nice work there from Morgan Porter.
Yeah, Morgan likes these conditions, and it is drying. You can see the dry line down the middle coming down Damon Hill. But look at this, look how dry the track is here. So what tyres are they on? That's the question. Looks like they're all on wets. They are on wets, but they'll be on pretty, well, I won't use the word, but the wets will not be in the best condition,
no,
let's say, at the end of this race.
The key factor, therefore, is if they are on wets, the key factor is going to be, as the circuit dries out,
low pressures.
Low pressures are going to need to be key. Whoever's done that and got the strategy right in terms of tyre pressures, that is going to be the key at the second half of this race. As the race continues on and the circuit dries out, whoever's got their tyre pressure spot on, they'll be the one who wins. And you know who's very good at tyre pressures in terms of late call strategy? Joe Turney. He's always been very good at it.
Yeah, the mechanics in the paddock, highly experienced. They'll know, looking at the conditions, as you can see the track drying greatly, that low tyre pressures are what you need in these conditions. If you have tyre pressures that are too high, the tyres will overheat, the little blocks on the tyres will start to rip up and you will lose grip big time.
And that will basically be like driving on an ice rink. And I know that in the wet, that's actually a lot of fun. But in these conditions, you can't do anything with the cart at all as they come through. Hughes, Turney, Porter, Butcher, Laws, Malin, Pennell, King, Turner, Armstrong. Really interesting challenge through the field. Scott Jackson, your leading rookie in 11th. Morgan, your leading privateer in 12th. Then it's Wilson, Wang, Jenson Brown, Louis Westover. Sky Siddle doing a good job in front of Archie Tillett. She is making some big gains, actually, Sky Siddle. She was in the Birrell Art Juniors. She stepped up at the end of last year for the season finale, and her confidence was raised just by the enjoyment of racing at British Super 1. Now she is actually making some steady progress.
Yeah, and you like to hear that. When I spoke to her and her dad after that appearance, I thought, well, they didn't get out of the B final that day. It won't have been a great experience for them, but they absolutely loved it.
Yeah, quite the contrary.
They talked about the atmosphere, how the organisation.
That's Turney. Turney's got through. Turney is past Luke Hughes, so that's a lead change, and Joe Turney has hit the front. Now, the question is, Will Luke Hughes be able to strike back? Will his knowledge of how the track dries compared to Joe Turney be a little bit stronger? Archie Tillett, meanwhile, in behind Sky Siddle initially, but now Siddle has dropped back to 21st. Tillett has been given a warning. Did he get back past Sky Siddle and cause a little bit of a mess up?
I'm not sure whether he did. We didn't see it, of course, but he's got a warning flag. I was saying about Sky and the dad earlier. The fact is, they didn't have a great first introductory meeting at the end of last season to Super 1, but they enjoyed it so much, they're back for a full campaign this year.
So there's a great little challenge here in the midfield as a nice little tussle for position continues. That is Thomas Turner, the O-plate at the front of the queue. No, sorry, it was. Now it's Jackson, because Turner's got away and got past Levi King. So it's Jackson, Armstrong, Wilson, Morgan, Huang and Brown. Then it's Oliver Hodgson. So Hodgson has charged his way through to 16th now, in front of a fading Louis Westover, unfortunately. He's lost 7 places. Then it is Tillett, Richard Morris in front of Sky Siddle, who's just repassed Eleanor Morris. Then it's Ganem, Pettit, Douglas and Morris, the 4 drivers who went off, unfortunately, on that first lap out of the compression complex that we saw. But we're watching Thomas Turner, the O-plate, just in front of Levi King, 8th and 9th. These conditions really have thrown up some surprises in the order.
Scott Jackson in 10th place there, you can see picked out. He is the leading rookie. Only 3 rookies in it, but he's got a massive lead over the next rookie. He's down in 22nd place.
Well, there's the MLR 3 Musketeers running 6th, 7th and 8th. Lewis Malin, Brad Pennell and Thomas Turner. Then there's a little bit of a gap back as we saw King, then Jackson, Armstrong, Morgan, Huang, Wilson, Brown, Hodgson, Westover and Tillett. Joe Turney, though, he's into his A game, 49.3.
Pulling away, he's got the fastest lap, and he's 1.1 ahead of Luke Hughes. Hughes has got no response. In fact, Hughes is going to come under pressure here from Morgan Porter. I was here at Glan-y-Gors Park the very first day Luke Hughes sat in a kart. I think he was 5 years of age that day. He's not 5 years of age anymore, but we've been waiting for a performance from Luke Hughes over the last few years at Super 1. We've not quite got it, but we're getting one today, but it's not quite the performance in the final here he would have liked, starting from pole.
Still, he gets the plaudits for winning the pre-final in a fantastic drive earlier on, and he's very much at the front end of this field, but now he's got to try and shake off the man who is fastest of all in the first sector. That's Morgan Porter.
And he puts in the fastest lap, Porter, as you say that, Jake, 49.2. So Porter is a man on the move. I think he's going to maybe making his way past Luke Hughes sometime soon. He's all over the back of him.
Definitely thinking about it through the carousel. He thinks better of it and decides to wait for another opportunity in the compression complex. Apex 2, Apex 3, dropping down the hill. Morgan Porter giving it serious curbage as he comes through the left-hander. Now up towards Devil's Elbow as he comes into the final turn. He may get a run in the inside, and he does. That's Morgan Porter all over for you. And now what that does for the championship standings between the 2 of the drivers at the sharp end, Joe Turney leading the championship, Morgan Porter in 2nd, is it means the gap is 30 points heading to the season finale. If it stays like this, at least. Morgan Porter, 49.25. That's only 0.02 of a second faster than Joe Turney.
Yeah, so Porter and Turney, 1st and 2nd, but not in that order. It's Turney and Porter in the championship, and Turney and Porter on track. So I'm not sure what the situation is on drop scores. We've not had a chance to have a look at them. The drivers at the end of the season dropped their worst score from any round, so their worst round during the season, they drop that score, and of course that can have an impact on the dynamics at the final round.
3rd position in the championship, of course, is Oliver Hodgson, who's made his way back into 16th place, but of course he had the Lark Hall incident still hanging over his head. I mean, he got excluded for a technical infringement. They appealed it. I'm fairly sure they have lost that appeal, so he's not going to gain the points back, and that means that effectively, well, unless something really miraculous happens, like Turney and Porter get an exclusion at PF, which is unlikely, that Hodgson is pretty much out of contention for the championship, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's between the top 2 in the championship now, and I have to say, if Joe Turney loses the championship with a 30-point lead here going into the final round, notwithstanding that there may be some adjustment for drop scores, I will be absolutely astonished, because as I said earlier, in championship terms, he is a serial winner of races and championships.
Oh, that's Sky Siddle.
Out.
That's Sky Siddle, unfortunately. What a shame. She was competing to be the leading rookie in this race, and unfortunately she's gone off there at the first sector as her car being walked away. That's just after the very fast sweeper right-hander that leads up to the spoon, and unfortunately she's gone in backwards there, so I guess she must have potentially snagged the curb on the way through, and the back end just swapped ends. But again, you have to take the positives from these things. She stepped up from a national championship that's all karts are built to run equal. She's come into a very competitive playing field with lots of different manufacturers, lots of different teams, and she's making good progress.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a number of drivers move up from that championship over the last few years. We were talking Ollie Gray earlier on in juniors. Is another driver who won at that level, as indeed Sky did.
And we're talking about Senior X30. The runner-up in the Birrellard Juniors last year went up to Senior X30 in Europe, Harry Barlow, and was very, very strong. So we're seeing quite a few drivers on the Birrellard chassis in the National Series come up well. And of course, in TKM, the Birrellard chassis is doing a fantastic job in both junior and senior with the Jade Racing team.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And the Birrellard Championship, it's an IKI, Independent Kart Racing Series, not MSA. They were MSA. Andy Cox made the decision to go away from the MSA. But what I like about that championship, I think when I was speaking to Nigel Edwards a year or so ago about it, the fact that it's non-MSA is irrelevant. It brings people into the sport. It gives them a chance to come in on a competitive level playing field with karts that everybody else has and learn the trade and then move up, which is what we've seen drivers doing out of that championship and into Super 1.
Yeah, look at what they've been able to do. They have been absolutely sensational, some of those drivers, and you can see those talents in the Super 1 grid, and you've been seeing them for the last 5-6 years really storming the Crows and coming up to national level. As we've been talking, Thomas Turner has been chipping away at his teammates' advantage up the road, Brad Pennell, and he could be going for a move now to move up into 7th position as they drop through the carousel. They'll go back up the hill to the compression complex. Hang on a second. We've been saying that Joe Turney's got this one nailed. Look at Morgan Porter. He's just done the fastest second sector of anybody in the whole race, and he's going quicker than Joe Turney, although he gets a much faster third sector, Joe Turney. Porter wants to snatch it off him, and he's got time to do it.
Just 2 laps remaining. I don't think he has, Jake. I think Turney's way too experienced. Even if he gets there, he's got to get past. I don't think Turney allows that. Turney responds, Jake, with a 48.69. So he's got the hurry up and immediately turns the afterburners on, and he's just keeping that gap exactly as it is. Porter definitely not getting any closer now with just over a lap and change to go. Well, Turney's got this one.
Absolutely looking that way at the moment. We just saw Joe Turney's teammate there, Jake Douglas, making a good move on William Pettit to move up the order, and that puts him up into 19th place. Chaos Sport drivers at the front, Chaos Sport drivers in the midfield as well. Of course, you've got multiple drivers within the same team, and some of them are good hands at the game and well experienced, like Joe Turney, who leads the championship. Others are just getting their first steps in Senior X30 with a new team, so you get those different dynamics within the same grid. But Joe Turney controlling the pace out front. Look, he's done another new fastest lap.
Yeah, amazing talent. I said earlier, Lando Norris, we wish Lando well in Formula 1 this year, but this man has already achieved more than Lando did, and I don't care what formula, what kart, what car you put him in, whatever you put him in, so long as it's competitive, if it's on a level playing field, this will be the guy you have to beat.
Down the devil's elbow for the last time. The man behind him is the man he's fighting with for the championship title, but in this form he's going to be very tough to beat. Joe Turney wins at Glan-y-Gors from Morgan Porter, with Luke Hughes a stunning effort in 3rd position, and a great weekend for him on home soil. Butcher 4th from Laws and Nallin, with Pennell and Turner line astern, 7th and 8th ahead of Lewis King and the leading rookie Scott Jackson in the top 10. In front of Huang, Wilson and the comeback man Oliver Hodgson. Made up 12 places from the start, more than anybody else to finish 13th. 1 in front of Derek Morgan and ahead of Jenson Brown and Louis Westover. But it's all about Joe Turney. 16 laps completed, and the fastest lap of the race goes to him. A fantastic performance and a victory that puts him right in touch for the title. 30 points clear of Porter, heading to the final round at PF International.
Joe, it looked reasonably straightforward out there, but the conditions were difficult. Did they play into your hands, or did they make it more difficult?
I think, to be fair, in the wet we've been not quite the fastest this weekend. With Morgan Porter's definitely been a bit ahead of us in the wet, but then Louis made a really good call on the grid with the tyre pressures, and I think we were similar to Morgan in the final, and then the last few laps I managed to extend my gap even more.
And where does that leave you in the championship, do you think?
I think we've got a reasonable gap now going into the last round, but it's definitely not over yet. So yeah, we'll be working hard up until then and making sure that we come away with the championship.
Okay, who do you want to thank for your win today?
KR Sport, Ash and Martin at KR, and Louis, who's been with us all year and done a really good job. So yeah.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
30 points separate Joe Turney and Morgan Porter for the season finale in a few weeks' time. Hodgson looks safe and secure in third, but Thomas Turner versus Sean Butcher for fourth will be an exciting sideline story. It's going to be Judgment Day in fantastic fashion at PF International, where the Super 1 champions of 2018 will be crowned.